Good morning, everybody. We're going to give it a couple of more minutes here just to give some folks some time to trickle in, but we will get started shortly. Thank you. Alrighty, we'll give it one more minute here and then we'll get started. Thanks, everybody. Alrighty, well, we can go ahead and kick things off. Happy Friday, everybody. We appreciate you being here today for our complimentary webinar focused on Microsoft 4019 Copilot agent content. We've got an awesome presenter with us today, Will Berkeley, who we will get to here shortly. But before that, we're going to dive into a couple of housekeeping items and a few things from the EnterOne side around some offers we have specific to Microsoft and Copilot that may be of interest to you. And then will go ahead and dive into the session from there. So if there are any questions, please utilize the chat function. We will be monitoring the Q&A throughout the session and answering any questions that we can in real time in the chat. And any that may be better suited for Will, we will save time at the end and pass those along for him to answer at the conclusion of the session as well. So with that, we'll go ahead and kick things off. Will, if we can go to the next slide, please. Awesome. Well, perfect. Just to introduce myself, my name is Saxton Barnes. I am the Director of Strategic Growth and Vendor Relations here at EnterOne. I focus on Microsoft as well as a couple other vendor lines, but today we will be talking about Microsoft. So with that, we'll dive into some of our exclusive offers that can help accelerate your adoption of some of the latest and greatest as it pertains to Copilot, as well as some additional resources that we have on the EnterOne side to take advantage of for your enablement journey. So Will, next slide, please. Awesome. So the first thing I want to mention is our EnterOne Copilot road mapping. Today is a little bit of a sample size of what this strategy is, but essentially this is an offer for you and your company to help accelerate your adoption of Copilot specific to your use cases, your business personas, and again, to give you that specific roadmap from a beginner's perspective all the way to that mastery level that's more streamlined and again, tailored to you and your people. So we have created a few suggested courses based on different levels and based on where you're at specifically in your Copilot journey. You can enter where you please. And we can also customize this engagement. If there are other courses that you think may better align that have Copilot content, we can absolutely work with you to create a custom roadmap. But we do have our standard one as well that I'll mention and we'll talk a little further about. And we'll also send some follow-up collateral for you to take advantage of in view as well. So with that, again, this strategy is built around your people and your specific business use cases. So we can tailor the sessions themselves to include specific use cases curated to your people, whether that be finance specific, HR specific. We'll meet your needs there and make sure that the content that we're delivering is specific to your people. So with that, we can go to the next slide and I'll talk a little more about the structure of this. So we've broken out the Copilot roadmap into 4 different levels. Each of those will be ranging in an increasing competency. So level 1 is going to be more that foundational approach with our AI 3025 course. Again, this is going to be more for folks who are just starting with Copilot, maybe just starting to use it and want to understand better how to use it in a more efficient way. So that'll be our beginner level, the foundational level, AI 3025. Again, there are some other beginner courses, but this is the one we recommend. But we can absolutely discuss, ones that if you're interested in that are outside of AI 3025 for the foundation level, we can meet you there as well. Level 2, we'll dive a little more specific into use cases as we get a little more hands-on, again, to those different personas within your company with MS 4004. Level 3 will be a little more of a deep dive with MS 4018. So again, we're building that competency as you're learning from level 1, level 2, and level 3. Or if you're more positioned right now, you have more experience with Copilot, you can begin at level 3 or level 2. So that's kind of how this is built. It's based around where you're at currently. And then level 4 will be more of that mastery piece where we're going to get into more robust topics like agents, which you'll see a sample size again of today in an abbreviated version with the MS 4019 content. So we'll do, again, there are other options here. There are PL 7008, which is a little more technical, but also focused on agentics. But again, these are these 4 or 5 courses we suggest that can help streamline your adoption of Copilot. And again, we can fully customize this. So we're very, very much so wanting to make this a hands-on approach as we engage with you and make sure that your investment is met with expectations specific to your company. So we'll send out more information on this. You can engage myself. My contact information will be listed at the end of today's session, and we can scope things out. We can talk deeper about this and help identify what courses and what topics may make sense for you. But this all will be included in a PDF as well, where you can go and read about the course overview for these different sessions and get a better understanding of what's available through EnterOne. Next slide, please. I also want to mention our EnterOne Empower platform. This is a free platform that we've created that houses on-demand training available to you with wide-ranging topics around the Microsoft portfolio. So here you'll be able to go and take advantage of recorded or on-demand information or training that maybe doesn't necessarily tie to a certification or specific course, but has additional information on what we'll be talking about today. We'll suggest actual course topics that align with these different videos and on-demand trainings that are out there. But again, completely free to register for, great to take advantage of as additional training and enablement at your own time and at your own pace for absolutely zero cost. So we'll make sure this link is out there to register. The QR code that you see on your screen right there will also take you out to the registration page if you want to scan that now. If not, again, these slides will be sent to you afterwards for your reference. Next slide, please. Awesome. And with that, I will pass it over to the man of the hour, Will Berkeley. Will, all you, sir. Thank you, everybody.
Okay. Thank you, Saxton, and welcome everyone to our MS 4019 webinar, focusing on learning a little bit more about agents in Copilot. As Saxton said, my name is Will Berkeley, and I'll be leading you through it as we go. My background is actually tech support, so way back in the olden days, before the internet was public, I used to take phone calls from people and then moved up into database management and software testing. But I've been teaching for a variety of different community colleges for about 10 or 15 years, and then now with EnterOne for the last 17 years. So really enjoying my time with Copilot. It used to be that Excel was my favorite program in the Office suite, but then I moved up into some other things, Power BI, but now Copilot is quickly taking the lead in regards to favorite programs. And so hopefully this class will be useful for you, this webinar, as we go on. So this is what we're going to be covering in the next a little over an hour. Getting a quick review. We'll take a quick back step for those of you who have not been in the training before, just to understand what prompts are. The primary way that we interface with agents and with Copilot is by typing questions and asking it to do things for us. So we want to make sure that we do that well. We'll also then jump right into understanding what agents are about. We're going to meet some of the primary agents that you're likely to use, the analyst, the researcher, and some others. And then we'll take a brief perusal into building agents from scratch, because not always do the pre-built agents do what we want them to do. We'll talk then a little bit about sharing agents, and then we'll roll the class up with a little review, some Q&A, and some closing remarks from Saxton. So by way of reminder, or maybe new information for you, let's talk a little bit about prompts. Prompts are the information that we type into Copilot to tell it what we want to do. So if you've been in our earlier webinars or training, then you might remember this discussion. It's the same slides, but I'm going to take a lot less time today on it than I did before. So the first thing we want to do is make sure that we tell Copilot exactly what we want it to do. That's the goal. So, and I have several examples here to pop up as soon as I get the focus back on the PowerPoint. So finding out or letting Copilot know what we want, the overall goal is the most important thing. That we also might have a specific context on why we're doing this, or particular source material. It might be emails that we've received or written, or meeting chats that we participated in, or individual files that we might have in OneDrive or SharePoint or elsewhere. And then finally, the expectation, how we want Copilot to put it all together. So those four things together could comprise a complete prompt. And then as we go forward, when we get the results, we're going to do some iteration, adjusting and following up follow-up prompts as necessary. So if we can learn to do that well, then we're going to be able to interact and use Copilot to its best extent. So let's talk a little bit about agents. So we have a number of different types of agents, so we just want to meet them here very briefly. First off, we have pre-built agents in Copilot Chat. So Microsoft 365 Copilot Chat provides access to a gallery, quite a collection of pre-built agents already ready for you to go. And these agents are built from Microsoft and also from some third-party vendors. We'll talk about that as we get into it and why that's not a bad thing, because sometimes, people might worry about that. So I want to alleviate your concern. We also have ready-made SharePoint agents. A ready-made SharePoint agent is a system-generated AI-powered assistant that's automatically scoped to the particular content on your SharePoint site when it is created. So we can answer specific questions about the content on that site and help users understand the documents, make the best use of them, provide insights based on the information that's available. And SharePoint sites now come automatically with a ready-made agent by default. We also have agents for the everyday business user as we're going around the circle. So agents in SharePoint and in Copilot Chat, they're driven by AI chatbots. However, these agents don't have generative AI. They do a lot of things, but they don't do that. So we might be using them in Word or in Excel or in PowerPoint. They work specifically with those particular apps. All right. Also, it's important to note that they respect the permissions that are established by Microsoft 365 and specifically by your agency, so that users only see the content that they're allowed access to. So Mary could use an agent which will respond to prompts that Mary gives, but only show the data that Mary is allowed to have access to. And the very same agent will turn around and show Peter only the data that Peter's allowed access to. The agent will never bypass the permissions that are set up by the organization. So some of the key features include just the ease of creation and use of these. You don't need any coding skills to create these agents. I'm going to show you some of that today. And they can be tailored by various content that they use to specific applications and specific knowledge that you give it. And always, and I feel like I have to say this a lot because it's a question that comes up a lot, the compliance of permissions. These agents, just like all of the other agents, are always going to adhere to the permissions set by Microsoft. In fact, this morning, while I was prepping this class, I spent about a half an hour trying to fool an agent and get it to give me a little more information, just even a little more information than it was supposed to. It was very polite, as it declined me every single time. So I guess I'm not quite the hacker I used to be, but not that I ever was. But the agents are not going to give people, by any means, access to content that they do not have permission to access. Finally, we get around to advanced agents. Now, these are quite complex agents that are built primarily by software developers, are using the Copilot Studio and the Visual Studio and Teams toolkits. So we're not going to look at those. I'm just mentioning those for the completeness of this diagram. So those will come up in another webinar and other training. So we won't be looking at those today. Now, who can create and use agents? Well, as you might expect, especially as we look at SharePoint permissions, that site members are certainly allowed to do these kind of things. Site owners, of course, can do anything in the site, but site members are also allowed to create and use agents unless that function has specifically been disallowed by the agency. Normally it isn't, but it could be. So the agency can disallow on any level of SharePoint, but typically site members are allowed to create and use agents. Site visitors typically only have read-only access, but they can still use the agents. They just can't create them. They can't change them. They can't alter them in any way. And then external users, essentially on the same level as visitors, they might be whitelisted into a little bit higher level than visitors and actually be able to do some additional things, but only as the agency allows it. So again, we're always respecting the permissions that the agency, that the organization sets up. Copilot's not going to bypass any of that. So if you notice this slide, there's a number of different bullets here that we just want to cover very briefly. Agents can assist you with tasks like document organization or meta tagging data and can do that somewhat automatically. It can also enhance your search functionality quite greatly, actually, as I've observed it. These agents also support real-time collaboration. Now, we've been doing collaboration and co-authoring and things like that in OneDrive and in SharePoint for quite a long time, so that part's not new. But agents have taken it up to the next level by not only allowing the collaboration, but also offering contextual updates, suggestions, reminders as we're doing that collaboration. They can adapt to your individual work styles and preferences. I have to give you an example, because it just came up with me a couple of days ago. I was prepping another Copilot class, and I wanted to, in an Excel file, I won't be doing this today. I wish I had the time, but I don't. In an Excel file, I told it to create a new column of data with a formula. I didn't specifically write out the formula. I just, with words, actually using my microphone, I said, I want you to, figure out the profits, removing the, costs and the discount that people have, also calculating in the shipping costs. And, I named I've had like 6 or 7 different columns of things that should be either added into the profits or removed from the profits. And I just spoke it. I didn't say, column B minus column C. I didn't do anything like that. I just spoke it as a normal sentence. And it took care of it for me. It was really nice. But there were a lot of things that didn't have discounts. And so the way that calculation worked out, and as I went to the next column to see the differences, those who didn't have any discount, the differences between the with and without discount were zeros. And there were a lot of zeros, thousands of rows of zeros. So I just said to Copilot, I don't really want to see those zeros. Can you not blank out the cell, but just create a formula that will blank out the zeros? Now, I've done that myself before, so I know it could be done in Excel. And in about 3 seconds, maybe 4, Copilot took care of it for me. And I thought, that was pretty nice. I was impressed. I mean, I wasn't greatly impressed, but I was a little bit impressed. That's not the spectacular thing. The spectacular thing, to me at least, was that 3 days later, I was working on a completely different document in a completely different context, but some of the data overlapped, and not in actual data, but in the, profits and losses and discounts and shipping. It was a different file and different collection of data. But when I gave it a similar, and it wasn't even like, giving it the same exact order, I gave it that first order to do the initial calculation. It remembered what I had said second, and it blanked out the zeros for me automatically and said, I blanked out the zeros. Is that okay? Because you asked me before. I mean, it asked me that question. It said, is it okay if I blank out the zeros like you asked me before? And I went, yeah, thanks. So Copilot is going to learn what your particular preferences are, remember those as we go forward, and then either do it for you or just offer it and say, hey, we did this last time. Let's do it again. So Copilot's learning, not only learning and getting smarter from the corporate standpoint, but learning your particular preferences as well, which I think I really like. So with the increased utilization of agents, it's imperative that organizations establish robust, very, very secure governance controls to ensure proper management and security and compliance. And once again, Copilot does follow those and enforce those governance strategies, which should be, re-examined on a regular periodic basis. So without reading this whole slide to you, I would never do that to you. Just to confirm one more time that Copilot does observe those regulations that your agency has enacted. So let's meet some of the agents right now. All right, you can see a list of some of the more popular ones, the analyst, the researcher, and several others. So we're going to look at those real briefly, and we're going to start with the analyst. All right, first off, just on this slide, I'm not going to have the time, of course, to type all these in, and not every one of these questions applies to every single type of data. But these are the kind of questions that you might want to find out about, that we've been finding out about for years, all right? So the very first one, we might need to summarize the trends in a particular file, be it Excel or Access or Oracle or other things, all right? Or find out what are the top performing products. Like I said, these are the things that we've done with Excel and with other applications by typing formulas and functions. We don't have to do that anymore. We can just type in or turn on your microphone and say, compare this year's revenue to last year's, or would you filter this data to only show North America, etc. And so those are the kind of things that the analyst is going to do for us, either analyzing the data. Well, yeah, that was the end of my sentence. So I want to show you, I'm going to go ahead and get out of this slideshow right now, and I'm going to show you some examples of this right now. So let me get out of this. I'm in Copilot right now. Let me take a look and show you the file that I'm going to be using here. Very simple file, just for the simplicity of our examples. It's a list of survey results that came in from customers, ranking things on a scale of 5 being good down to 1 being bad, and then additional written out comments. So just so you see it, that's what we're starting with, this thing called Project Nexus. So I'm going to go ahead and close it because it's, and it's in my OneDrive here, Project Nexus, in a file, in a folder called AI 4019, the class. So I'm going to jump over here to my Copilot chat. Hopefully you're familiar with this. We have our navigation bar, which has a number of basic chat prompt or chat beginning buttons here, including create, and then we get onto our agents and notebooks and looking at our chat history and the other apps that we would have, OneDrive and PowerPoint and so forth. But the agent is, or the analyst is one of our agents. So once I click on that button, it'll pop me into the analyst. And so I'm going to do that first button, or that first prompt that I just gave you. So first thing I want to do is tell it which file I'm using. So I'm going to click on a slash. It'll give me a short list of the files that I've recently looked at. And I haven't recently opened up that Nexus file and done anything with it. So I could maybe do a search on it, all right? And I don't see it there either. So I'll keep on searching, and if I don't find it there, that's okay. I'm not going to worry about that. I can also come over here to the Add Cloud Files, and I'll go to my files that way. Did I click? I guess I clicked. There we go. And I'll jump into that folder that I was just in, and there's my Project Nexus. So I'm telling it that's the file I want to use. And now I'll go ahead and paste in my prompt just to save you the trouble of watching me type. Yes, you'll appreciate that in the future. So I'm going to have it analyze the spreadsheet, give me the top 3 trends. That's all I told it. That's all I need to say. And it'll go into the file, look it over. You'll notice if we're using Excel file especially, oftentimes you'll visibly see the Python coding that it's creating. Other applications don't necessarily do that as often, and so you'll see that here in the analyst prompt as well, and others, especially like I said, when you're using Excel. Did I say Access? Excel. As Copilot starts running faster and faster, and it is running faster like almost on a daily, weekly basis, it'll be harder to read some of those little prompts that it gives you just to let you know what it's doing. But that's okay. That's okay. We're not worried about that. You'll always know that Copilot is still running because this purple, red, and green dot will keep flashing across the screen as it's working. Okay, it's almost done. There we go. So I asked you for the top 3 trends. It did just tell me 3 lines. It gave me quite a bit of information as I'm looking through here. And we're not going to read through this, but you can see that it lists it. It gives me more information, gives an interpretation, does an analysis for me, hence the name, analysis or analyst agent. It'll come up with essentially it's called the bottom line, but it's the final solution on what you're asking. And then finally, it will give oftentimes, not every time, but just about every time I've seen it, give additional suggestions for more analysis. I might tie these to specific ratings or do any number of different things. So you can have, and just to jump into the slide here to save us a little bit of time, there are a number of different types of analysis questions that we might ask, different categories of questions. Of course, the questions will be tailored to the specific data that you're using. So it might be sales data, it might be customer feedback data, it might be, building and maintenance data, it might be, any number of things. And the bigger the data, the more useful the analyst agent is going to be as far as saving you the time of trying to figure out, how am I going to do this? How am I going to figure this formula out that's going to do this and this and such and such? If you just ask the question in normal language, then the analyst will figure it out for you. All right. There are some limitations. As with anything in computers, there are a few limitations. So first off, the analyst really needs a clear data structure, okay? Just data thrown together without any structure at all is not the best plan. So either, well-formed or at least relatively well-formed sentences in paragraphs or columns and rows of data in Excel or Access or other data structures. It's also important to note, I probably should make this the first bullet. The second one should probably be the first bullet. It's never going to replace your intuitive understanding of the data. So it's going to give you suggestions. You have to make the final decision. So it's not going to replace you. In all regards, whether it be the agents or whether it be prompt results, Copilot or AI in general does not replace you. It's an assistant to you, which is why it's called Copilot. It's your assistant, not your replacement. You can see the other bullets. I'm not going to read those to you. But done quite a few other analysis things with the analyst agent. I'm just going to show you the one that I did a little bit earlier. Okay, so I took another file. Oh, I probably should show you the file. Yeah, I should probably show you the file. Let me go back and show you the file. So I took a file, again, not too terribly complex, another Excel file. This is based on some pretend data that was created for another class, some sales data. But we have about a little over 50,000 records of different sales showing, product ID, customer promotion, sales, and so forth. We have those in other sheets. So I have about 8 sheets here with products and subcategories and categories and 18,000 customers and about a half a dozen different locations and promotions. And I have a dedicated order sheet. And so I took that and I asked it this question. Let me come back and ask it the question. I said, based on this file, I wanted to know the top 5 items priced between 50 and 500 that have the greatest percentage difference in sales, not in sale dollar-wise, but in percentage between summer and winter months. Now, this is a bike shop, so that would be significant, you would think. So we only wanted to include the sales that had both, sales in both those seasons. All right. And then only those that were greater than 0, because I knew for a fact that we had some loss leader products, okay, promotional products and other things where we're basically taking a bath on that. I didn't want those included. And then I wanted them displayed in a table, a simple table with the winter and summer sales and the differences. Now, those of you who are familiar with Excel, you could totally do this yourself. All right. But you may not be able to do it in 3 minutes. And that's about what time it took Copilot to do it. So to shorten it, I videoed it, and I'm just going to show you the short version of it. Okay, so in case I forgot to show you the file, there's the file again. It's in the video. I'm running a video right now, by the way. The only thing I cut out of this video, top to bottom or start to finish, was that little grinding time where it was figuring things out. All right. So there's the file. I haven't even started the analyst yet. So I asked the analyst, I pointed to the file just as I did before with Nexus, except this time I pointed to my 2025 base workbook. That happened to be in the short list there, so that was good. I pasted the same information that I just showed you on the slide. I gave it a part of that formula just because there were a number of different options on how to calculate that bit that I was telling it. So I wanted to do it a certain way. And so in just a couple of minutes, this is what it came up with. Not only the table, but also an interpretation of the table. So I thought that was very nice. That saved me a lot of time over calculating or figuring out those formulas on my own. So that's our analyst agent. It'll take, especially the larger the data, the better it will do. As far as that goes, an analyst analyze it, at least do the beginning of the analysis for you. Another one of the popular agents is the researcher agent. The researcher agent. Now, if you've ever had to do research, I did when I was in grad school, I had to do a lot of research. And I got pretty good at it, but it did take a fair amount of time in wading through, useless material. If you've ever done a Bing or a Google search, there's a lot out there. It's not super useful. So the researcher agent is going to help you with some of those things. And so again, you can start with particular data, or you can just start asking questions like, what are the emerging trends in the electric vehicle market for 2025? It's going to go out and be particular about the sources that it uses. All right. Now, as always, it's not omniscient and it is not infallible. So you'll always be necessary for you to check up on what its results are. All right. There are always going to be limitations. And so there are also limitations with the researcher. So the sources and their access to the sources may vary from time to time. And it may be limited by what you have access to. Right. Of course, in your internal data with the company, it's going to respect your file permissions and other permissions and so forth. So, Yeah, so we might have some questions like this, help me gather and summarize discussions, from emails related to Power BI. I actually did that. These are all things that I actually did. I'm not going to take the time to do them, but they were just a sequence. Each one of these built on the last one, each one built on the last one. And I didn't have to say to the researcher, now we're still going on the same data, or we're building on that. It just knew it was a single conversation, a single chat thread with the researcher, and so it knew what to do. And it continued on answering additional and additional questions. By the way, Aaron, you didn't know you were so famous, did you? So Aaron's one of my coworkers. So I decided to go, a little bit, I don't want to say wild, but, well, maybe I do because it's on the slide now that I think about it. But this is what I decided to do, all right? Starting with my base workbook again that I just showed you, I wanted to know about the top 10 products. You can see the description there, okay? But in addition to the things that might have been done by the analyst, I also wanted to know about geographic data. I only wanted the sales in the northern hemisphere. I only wanted countries that are less than 30 inches. Oh my goodness. Now researcher has to not only be a geography expert, it also has to be a meteorologist. It also has to be a demographics expert looking at the current populations of countries, and then also a political science major as it looks at the different political structures of the governments, of the sales that we're looking for. And so once again, to save us a little bit of time, I made a video of it doing that very thing. And again, this video is shortened a bit. It took about, if I remember the timing, it was like 6 minutes to do this. We're not going to take that time here. So I pointed to the starter file, again, optional. I could start with, start from scratch and start asking a researcher to, research things. There's my bit with the, northern hemisphere and so forth. In case you didn't have a chance to read it, there it is again. This is the part that I sped up a little bit, where it's actually doing the work. And here it is, just exactly what I wanted. Country by country, leader by leader, approximate sales of those various things, came up with conclusions and information about each of the different countries. And also, since it's a researcher, it's going to cite where that information came from. So I really like that. I feel obligated to mention one more thing, so I'm going to go back on the video just to show you something. Okay, I'm going to back up. Did I mention that Copilot is a researcher and AI is not omniscient? Okay, I did this a couple of weeks ago. Justin Trudeau is no longer in office. All right. Now I did this 3 times. When I was practicing it, I did it 3 times. I only saved this one for the video so I could specifically point out on this particular one. The other 2 times it got the right person. I can't remember the person's name right now. But this time, even though Justin Trudeau has been out of office for a little over a year, it somehow snagged the wrong data that time and didn't know that Justin Trudeau is not there anymore. So it's always a good idea to double check your work, just like if you were working with somebody else, you double check their work as well. So you just have to check on things. It's going to do the work for you. It's going to do some of the work for you. It changes the work you do. Instead of you doing raw research from the beginning, you're going to do a little bit of backup and double checking and possibly a bit of troubleshooting in the process as well. Prompts are so important that we actually have an agent to help us write prompts. I want you to appreciate the humor in that, all right? Useful, but still a little bit funny, all right? We're writing prompts, but we need to learn how to write prompts. So we're gonna ask the prompt coach by sending prompts to the prompt coach so we can tell us how to better write our prompts, all right? Kind of go a little bit of a circle there. But it's very useful. I don't think I have a slide for its limitations. The one big limitation I noticed in the prompt coach is that it will not send the prompt for you to the agent where you wanted to, send it. So if I was doing the research agent, I might go to the prompt coach first and say, this is kind of what I have in mind. Can I write this better? And it's going to say, oh yeah, for prompts, you really need to say it this way. And then I could copy and paste that into the researcher. But I tried several times and said, oh, Mr. Prompt Coach, or whoever the prompt coach is, would you just send that to the researcher? And again, it was very polite. It said, no, I can't do that, but you could. Let me show you how to copy and paste. And it actually showed me, gave me the step-by-steps on copying and pasting. So there's always going to be limitations, but this is a very useful one if you're just getting into Copilot and some of the results you get aren't super great. It might be that you need a little bit more training on writing good prompts. We also have the Idea Coach. The Idea Coach. This is not specifically advertised as brainstorming, but I really think it is. And so I put that on the slide. But it's going to give you, I have this idea for something and blah, blah, blah. And I kind of bat it around between some folks. And we might, do the whiteboard on the, with the little grease pen and say, hey, tell me what you're thinking. And you remember in brainstorming, all the ideas are good, but we might want to rearrange them and sort them in a certain way. And the Idea Coach is going to help you with that. That's what it's for. We always want to be better writers. We always rarely have time to do all the writing, as well as we could. And so we can get some feedback from it. This is one of my favorites, I have to say. I haven't used it as much as I'd like to, but I've used it enough to know it's one of my favorites because it does a good job. This is probably the one I think has the most intuition because I gave it a couple of pages of something that I had started to write. And I said, writing coach, would you look at this? And it kind of reminded me of my English 101 prof who correctly ascertained that I wanted to really write about a different topic than I had started with. Most of the time teachers aren't super good at that. And having taught English 101, I know that's sometimes true. But the writing coach, when I sent this to it, it said, have you thought about maybe focusing on this thing instead? It seemed like that came up a couple of times. Maybe that's really what you had in mind all along. And in reality, that was true. So this can help you not only improve the writing, not just the techniques, not just the mechanics of writing, but also the intended flow and maybe the subject matter that you're maybe dancing around and haven't quite really nailed down that that's what you want to do. So let's look at another one. I'm going to have a little fun with this. I hope you don't mind, but some of the agents are all sorts about fun. So actually, I'm going to come back to that a little bit later. Let's look at some of the other agents. So underneath the agents, underneath the researcher and analyst and idea, there's the prompt coach. Writer is not in here. Probably should be. But if I click on all agents, I will then see not only the agents that are on my short list, researcher, analyst, and so forth. It'll also show me this list will, just to complete the top 8, it's going to also show some of the agents that are part of the Office Suite applications. So we've talked about in the past using Copilot in PowerPoint. We haven't really discussed it in these terms, but essentially that Copilot is specifically for PowerPoint. Or when you're in Excel, when you go to Copilot and you say, hey, can you help me with this formula? Or would you make this formula? That is really a specific agent that is an expert on Excel. It knows all, well, last time I counted, it was 506 different functions in Excel. It knows them all. It knows them all. I don't know anybody else who knows even, half of them. But that Copilot button in Excel is an expert on Excel. So it really stands in the place of a separate agent. We just haven't referred to it that way. So each of the different, I think, as far as I know, each, if not at least the main apps within the Office 365, the Microsoft 365 suite, all have their own custom agent that is incorporated into Excel. Perhaps you hadn't seen that before, but I'll show it to you real quick in case you hadn't. I didn't point it out when we had that other file open, so let me just open it right now and just show you real quick. When we're in a file and we're on the Home tab, there's Copilot right there. So essentially, that's the Excel agent that's working for us here in Excel. Okay. Same thing with Word, same with PowerPoint, and many of the others. But there are lots of others. Okay. Now, some of them are built specifically by Microsoft. All right. Um, and you can see several of them there. There's the researcher, and if I click more, there's quite a variety of others. There's the idea coach, the prompt coach, analyst is in here, writing coach, a few others. Career coach, learning coach could help you as you're learning new skills to maybe move up in your organization. We also have the Microsoft 365 admin, if that's your situation in operating things. But then there are also some featured ones. These kind of change periodically. We'll talk about creating an agent here a little bit later. But then there are also, as I mentioned, a number of third-party agents as well. And this more agents not only shows Microsoft agents, additional ones like the prompt coach, but some from other organizations outside of Microsoft. I would say, by the way, that these agents don't necessarily work perfectly, just like any other agent. They don't necessarily work perfectly. All of these, I would say that's the same thing. But for the third-party agents, they have been vetted by Microsoft. So we know at least that they're safe. All right, at least that they're safe. Similar to templates in different applications. You've used templates in Word and Excel. If you ever go out on the web and do a simple search like free templates for Excel, you will get so many links you can't even count them all. But I wouldn't use any of those. I wouldn't use any of those, and I don't think you should either, because you have no control over those. The templates that are in Excel, the templates that are in Word, the templates that are in PowerPoint, and the agents that are here have been vetted by Microsoft, so we know that they're safe. So I wouldn't go out hunting for agents. I would just stick to the ones that are here. And there are quite a few. Did I mention there are quite a few? There are quite a few. There are, wow, power scroll time. There are quite a few agents already incorporated into Microsoft 365. Oh, at the bottom, finally, we get to the bottom. So if I wanted to use one, I would just simply, I won't do this right now, but I could just click on it, whether it be a third party or one of the other ones, and then that would just take me there. So I see prompt coach is already on my short list, so I won't do that. One thing to know also about the third party agents is that they may require you to sign in to their system, and some of them aren't free. Some of them are not free, but they'll let you know. They're not going to just charge you. They'll say, hey, there's a fee, monthly fee or whatever for those. All right. But that's where I can get all of the agents. So there's one more agent that I want to mention. There's one more agent that I want to mention. I call it an agent, but for some reason they don't. But it really is. It's the Create button up here on the navigation bar. The Create button is going to allow you to do graphical things, pictures and diagrams and all sorts of things. You name it, the Create, I'll call it the Create agent, is going to allow you to do a variety of things. All right. And so if I wanted to, let me see if I had an example here. Yeah, if I wanted to, I'm gonna use something I used before. I won't do the whole shebang, but I'll get started with it. That's actually, that was one that I started this morning. I was just trying it out. I won't click on it again. I'll do something simpler. Let me get rid of that. I'll get rid of this and then paste in text. My notes are in the notes pane of my PowerPoint, and so they come in here graphical because they came from PowerPoint. So I have to make it a text entry. But if I just wanted a simple cartoon, I'll just start simple. Cartoon of a wooden bear, right? Just to show you what it'll do. I might do a couple iterations of this just to show you, and then won't take too much time on these. And this is fairly common. Actually, it's quite common. Whenever you're using the Create agent, it is going to kind of draw it top to bottom gradually as it's formulating and working on it. And hey, that's not too bad of a bear. Gets about halfway down usually, and it just zips the rest of the way through. All right. Almost done. Oh, this guy's standing. When I did this in practice, the bear was always sitting. This is the first time I've had a standing bear. Okay. Well, that's all right with me. All right. I'm going to go a little further and say, I want to make this a photograph of a wooden bear. I want it to be an angry bear. I want it to have 3 eyes. Now, as fair warning, When I did this last time, it gave me initially 4 eyes. I had to say, oh, no, it's got 4 eyes. I only want 3. So sometimes it didn't count quite right. But let me go ahead and just show that to you real quick, and then I'll show you the final iteration of it. One thing to note, even though I told it I wanted a photograph of a wooden bear, if you start from scratch, the create agent's ability to make something really look like a photograph is somewhat limited. Okay, somewhat limited. So I'm not really convinced that that's a photograph. It's trying its best. It's certainly better than it was a couple of months ago. It's far better than that. But oh, it did count to 3 properly. That's good. So so let me just show you what I ended up with. Okay, after a number of iterations, I ended up with this. So I decided to put the bear in the woods, surrounded by trees. I had the fish was angry, and all the other fish were happy as they were jumping in the river. I put Mount Rainier in the background. All right, so that's the kind of thing that you could do if you start from scratch. Now, I went a little further, and I took a picture. This is not this year, but a year or so ago, I made a snowman. Decided to put him on the front porch of my house, and give him a top hat and dark glasses and a smiley face and some fingers. And then I went ahead and gave the create agent this picture. I attached that picture, and I said, "This is what I want you to do." Okay, turn the snowman into a teddy bear. All right. Now, since it's starting with an actual photograph, it's going to end up with something quite a bit closer to an actual photograph. Now, if I showed that to you, you could believe that was actually not necessarily snow, but actually sitting on that chair. It doesn't look cartoonish like the bear did. So by way of just advisement, if you want something to look fairly realistic, if you can start with something that's close and then have the create agent go further, then so much the better. All right. And then once again, we can do iterations and so forth. So let me see. I'm looking to see if there's any questions. Just glancing over now, and I don't see any. So I'll go ahead and keep on going.
Hey, Will, sorry, there was
yes,
a question from Brian.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
Yep.
I might not have seen it. Let me scroll back up. Go back up. Oh, maybe in the Q&A.
It's in the conversation chat.
Oh, okay. I don't see it. Maybe you can just tell me what it is.
Sure, no problem. Yeah. It says it's from Brian, and he asks, okay. I open Microsoft 360 Copilot. I go to all agents, and there is no researcher, analyst, or Excel agent. He sees the coaches, the prompt idea, the writing, and some other randoms, but he can't seem to find those built-ins that you're showing. Is there something that he's missing?
It could be. My first guess at this might be depending on your licensing. So there are 4 different levels of Copilot licensing that is available to us. I'm using Premium. If you didn't have Premium, then down here in the bottom left corner of the navigation bar, it might say Office 365 just Copilot or Copilot Chat, or it might say Buy Copilot or whatever. But these are attached to the Premium level licensing, and so if you don't have that, that might limit what your functionality and features are for your particular license. Maybe since I can't see the chat, if that's a good answer, maybe you give me.
You got a thumbs up on it.
A thumbs up. Okay, very good. Yeah,
I'm assuming that means it's okay. But
okay, very
if you
good.
have any other questions, Brian, let us know.
Okay, I can't give you any advisements on costs because they probably change from person to person, application to application, and day to day, and this is going to be recorded. So, but I think that's probably going to be your solution. All right, so let's keep on going. Sometimes, where to go? Sometimes we don't have all the agents that we want. I'm going to go ahead and click on the Copilot button to get back to the home page. By the way, the Copilot chat is the home page for Microsoft 365 now. We don't have just a hey, welcome to 365. And so what we want to be able to do sometimes is to create our own custom agents. So there's several different levels of this. We're not going to get into the studio, but we are going to talk a little bit about how we can create some of our own. So this was about the other agents. I passed that by. I didn't put that slide in, so I'll skip that for now. When we're creating our own agents, there are a number of different elements of the agent that we want to make sure that we pay attention to. The name of the agent would be useful, all right? If you wanted to have an icon, Copilot will assign an icon, but then you can change it if you prefer. You should always have a good description, not only for your users, but it'll also help kind of, as in a preliminary way, help Copilot know what exactly you're trying to create. But the instructions that you give to Copilot are really going to be where the heart and soul of the creation and the functionality of your custom agent is going to be. All right, so I want to give you an example. If I could get down to my notes here, let me just get out of this for a moment. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and create a new agent right now. So on the agents portion of the left pane, the navigation pane, I'm going to click New Agent. This is, by the way, the same button, just the completeness of what I said before. It's the same as that button. Okay, it does the same thing. So I'm just going to click this just because I happen to be there. Although I could have clicked that one, it doesn't really matter. But in a moment, I'm going to get the initial screen for creating these and show you a couple of different versions of this initial creation model or interface, I guess I should say. Okay, here we are. So we're on the new agent screen. There's a describe button. And when we click on that, all it gives us is a single little entry field for us to basically describe anything, kind of just flow of thought, general discussion on whatever we want. If you really can't figure out what you want, that's not a bad place to start. But if you have some idea of what you want the agent to do, then configure, aside from it being the default, might be a better choice. If I have an agent that already exists, here are the current agents that I'm using and have used before. And I want to build on from that and build a new agent, maybe a writing coach, but does, some additional thing that you want it to do, or the prompt coach or whatever. Then you can pick one of the current agents as a template and then build on it from there. So what I'm going to do is just create one real quick here. And I have my notes already come in, so already in here. So I'm just going to paste these in. Whoops. Let's do that again. Oops. Let's try that again. Get rid of that. There we go. So my name is going to be just assembling. Oops. No, that was the trip supplies. What happened? What happened there? I think I didn't click on the right button. I didn't click over to the next field. Yeah, that's what happened to me. There we go. All right. And then I'm going to give it quick little piece of information here. Just basic stuff. Just hello. This is a copy and a paste issue, not a Copilot issue. All right. So let's say I'm going to create an agent to help me pick out supplies on what I should bring when my company sends me to different countries in the world. All right. So different countries have different information that I should probably be aware of. But that's all I'm going to type. That's all I'm going to type. That's probably all I need. All right. And I'm going to go ahead and create this agent. Boom. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Doesn't take very long. Oh, it took more than 6 seconds this time. Okay. Sometimes it's taken like literally as little as, 15, 20 seconds. I got one to do it in 5 seconds, but that was the only one time. Well, it's taking a little longer than normal. Maybe it's tired of doing the same agent for me over and over again. It's not very likely, but there we go. Yeah, that was a little longer than normal, but that's not too bad. All right, go to the agent. So here I have my trip supplies agent, and I'm just going to type something simple like, I am going to the Congo. This is the example I used in class. One of my students came up with it. I said, give me a country. And they said, Congo. And I said, okay. What do I need? Well, I didn't give it any data about the Democratic Republic of the Congo or any other country in the world. Oh, I didn't know that. Yesterday when I did it, I actually typed out the Democratic Republic of the Congo, and it didn't correct me. So, okay. So let's see. It gives me some basic information. Yeah. A little bit about shots. That's nice. Money and payments, clothing and personal gear. That's very good. And this is all basic stuff, so I haven't told it yet what I really specifically need. And I can move on. Yes, I'm going to that. It gives me the choices. I'm going to this one, or I'm going to that one. Tell me about health precautions. I can keep on going with that. So I'll go ahead and click on this just to complete the scenario. One thing to note about creating an agent this way, and I only ran into this one time, but it was significant enough that I think I need to mention it to you. All right, the instructions field. The instructions field. Let me finish this up and go down through this. So now it's giving me more specific things about the Democratic Republic of the Congo. All right, specific shots, etc. Oh, mosquitoes. Didn't mention mosquitoes before. Oh, I hate bugs. Okay, not too bad. Now, if I wanted to make, before I go on to what I was about to say, if I wanted to make some additional changes, I can click on that, click on the ellipsis, click edit, and then I'm back in my entry field. All right. What I was about to say was this. All right. While I want the description to be fairly short for people to see, I want the instructions to be complete, but not verbose. Okay. On an agent, not this one, not the trip supplies, on something else completely different earlier in the week, I wrote out probably in Word, it would have been a complete page of data, maybe half a page. I mean, it was quite a bit of very specific things regarding, I think it was bike trips or something, and it took a long time. It took a very long time because it was doing research, just for trips. It took a minute, and because of all the things I wanted to look up. So you don't want to give it too much information, but you want it to be complete. All right. So sometimes rather than creating an agent right here from scratch, oh, I didn't complete the screen here. Down here, this is what I was about to say. Sometimes we want to give it separate documents that have the information that we need, be it SharePoint or Teams. Of course, you all probably know this, but the data that we store in Teams is actually being stored in SharePoint in a team site. All right. We could talk about that if we ever do a SharePoint class or webinar or a Teams class or webinar. But yeah, SharePoint is essentially the front end for storage of SharePoint data. We could also grab things from Outlook or on the web in general or specific files. I can search the documents or search the web or not. I can specify files or not. And then I can also add particular starter prompts. That's what I wanted to do for this. So I might add a prompt right here and say, I'll give it the title like taking a trip, right? I need information on, if I can spell the word information, on going to the country of, that'll be my prompt, okay? And that's how it would show up, just like that, okay? Going to the country of. So I'll go ahead and update this. This won't take very much time. All right, I'm going to go back to the agent again, and it's still in my original thread. So I'm going to go ahead and start a new thread with the trip supplies agent. And yeah, this sometimes takes a little bit longer, so I'm going to do a little quick refresh. It was still processing the new prompt and the change that I made. Okay, it's taking a little bit longer, but it'll show up in due time, but I'll keep on going. All right. So what I was going to say is if your agent needs to have like particular information about like what it's going to be passing to people, then instead of just putting all of that into the instruction sheet, you can actually put it into a separate sheet. All right. So I'm going to create another agent right now. I'll come back to this one later just to see that the prompt showed up, but I'll go ahead and click on new agent. How are we doing? A little after 5 minutes after. Very good. All right. So this agent is going to be called, not new agent, but HR benefits agent. All right. So for the company information, maybe especially for employees and maybe new employees in particular, all right, I want to create an agent that's going to be providing answers regarding Contoso, of course, fake company, policies. Look at this. Look at this. I typed up to policies and Copilot said, maybe and procedures wouldn't be a bad thing to add. So I'm just going to hit the tab key and it'll put that in for me. All right. So for the instructions, I'm just going to say, refer to the knowledge file. All right. That will be that. So I'm going to go down to the knowledge section. All right. Let me just jump in and show this to you real quick. There's a file that I have called Contoso Employee Benefits. All right. I'm going to click on that for a couple of reasons. One, to possibly, when I open a file like this, sometimes it'll get into the short list. Sometimes it takes a little longer of processing, and I'm not a super patient person, so I don't usually wait. But I'll go ahead and do that. And then I'm also going to grab the link. I'm going to copy the link to that file. As you know, in OneDrive and in SharePoint, every single element, every file, every picture, everything you store has its own web presence, has its own link that you can click to access it. All right. So I'm going to go over here to this and see if it's on my short list. Is it? No. Click on files. Is it the employee benefits? There we go. Oh, no, that's not the one I wanted. I wanted a different one. Sorry. I'm going to go ahead and just use the hyperlink. All right. So all right. Or the other option would be, in fact, maybe I'll do that just to show you a complete interface here. I could again go back to the cloud files. Okay. Oh, no, actually, I was thinking of something else. Never mind. So, yeah. So I forgot what I was doing here. When I'm doing this agent operation, when I'm doing just a chat, I can use things from SharePoint, or I can do things from OneDrive if I prefer. I can also upload a file on the fly that's on my local computer. But specifically for agents, at least through this interface, I can't use my OneDrive. I can't use my OneDrive for a simple reason. The agent, typically you're not creating an agent for yourself, but for multiple people. So you want to have that data in a more, in a more corporate level rather than in OneDrive. And so rather than going to OneDrive, I should have gone to my site, Tech Construction, gone to my AI Copilot source files. This is the file I actually wanted. It actually is identical to the other one. All right. But it's not the actual same file. It just has the same content. So I will again do what I should have done here in the first place, copy that link, the employee benefits file. Very good. And so now I should be able to find that one more easily. All right. So I'll go ahead and go to files, go to Word files. Will I find it? There's the other one. That's the one that's in my file. So I'm gonna go ahead and just paste it in here or grab it off of the list. Okay, I'm going to go to the Tech Construction site. I go to Copilot files. There's the employee benefits. That's the one to make sure I pick the right one. Okay, and so I see it down there. Once again, I could put in some prompts like time off. Tell me about vacation time limits. All right, or sick time. What are the guidelines for sick time? Okay. So I have that. I'll go ahead and click, it's auto saving as I go. I'll go ahead and click create. So this time it's actually tying the agent to that content, to that external content. See how much quicker it was. It didn't have to do all that processing because it's depending on the external file that I'm storing in SharePoint. All right. So here I am in my benefits agent, HR benefits agent item or agent. So I'll say something like, well, maybe I'll just click on this. Tell me about vacation limits. All right. So now it's going out to that specific file. Saxton, how much more time do I have?
You've got about 19 minutes for
Okay,
the half
perfect.
hour.
Perfect. All right. I don't think I'll use all of that, but we'll use about half of it right now in this activity. All right, so here it is. All right. It tells you what is in there. It tells you what is not in there. This was just a, very short file, so there's a number of things that are missing, but it tells us what we can. All right. All right. Suppose I have a different question, like what if I use up all my sick time? I spoke all right. Yeah. So I use up all my sick time. Now, let me just tell you, it doesn't have an answer. It doesn't have an answer. I didn't put that, I specifically left that out of that file, but we'll talk about how we can update that in a moment. Okay. I hope I left it off. Yeah. Yeah, it's not very specific. It's kind of, generalistic. It's interesting. It didn't admit something. It admitted when I practiced this before. The first couple of times that I did this without the specific answer in the data, it said, well, there it is. The benefits does not define vacation limits, but also said something like, I'm sorry, there isn't any information about what happens after you use up all your sick time. All right. But one way or another, it doesn't have the information we really wanted. Okay. Doesn't know, or so forth. So what I'm going to do is go back to my agent. Back to my agent. No, I'm going to go back to my file. All right. In my SharePoint in my SharePoint. And what I'm going to do is back out of this file and go to the addendum file. All right. Source data does get updated periodically. So this one says now, if you use up all your sick time, still too sick to come back to work, we have a long-term disability. All right, 60% for a period of 6 months, dropping to 50% after another 6 months. So I'm just simply going to take that just to show you what I could do. A couple of different options here. I got copied now. I could simply move that addendum file into a folder, because rather than specifying this file and this file and this file, I can also tell the agent to look in all the files in a particular folder. But since I didn't do that, I'm just going to go ahead and update my benefits file as soon as it comes up. That's that, as soon as it comes up. So I'll take that paragraph. I'll put here in wellness and health and wellness benefits. I'll put it right here after this main paragraph. Okay. I'm also going to throw in one more thing as a side point. Already done, so I can't really undo it. But early on, when I was doing this when I created that file and gave it to the custom agent that I was creating, or when I was writing the document, I should say, when I was creating the document, knowing that it was going to be a source file for this agent, I asked the writing prompt or the writing coach, I said, is there anything else I can do to this file to make it easier to use in a custom agent? And it said, yeah. And it made a few changes to me, including these little tags and so forth. So, but the main point here is that I put in the answer to the question. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and close this. I'm going to go ahead and ask the question again. Right? I don't have to update or change the agent at all. It's going to draw from the data. I might go ahead and do a new pass through on my agent. All right, tell me about vacation. Oh, no, not vacation time. What happens if I run out of my sick time? What happens? Yeah, I grabbed the wrong one. And if I run out of sick time. So now, having not changed the agent at all, but changed the source data, it will come up with that information about 60%, 50%. So the reason this is a better solution is because, and this is something you all know, if those of you who are into Excel, you know that one of the primary rules, all right, is that, there it is, 60% for the 6 months, 50% for another 6 months. In Excel, you never update, if the data in a formula changes, in a formula or function, you don't want to put static data in it. You write a formula that references a cell that has the data. That way, all you have to do to change the results of the formula is to change the source cells. In the same way, when you're building an agent, you don't want to be updating the agent every time, coming over here, oh yeah, the policy changed, we better do an update and change our instructions. No, you want to have a knowledge file instead. That way you can very easily and more conveniently change the knowledge file, and then the agent will automatically pick that data up, all right? And as I said before, we can search websites. We can also specify, essentially in 2 steps, not to do anything except use my source data, not to use anything except my specific sources that I've specified. So far, it looks like it didn't go very far beyond that, but that's not a bad place for us to be. So we have agents that we can select from our pre-created list. We have agents that we can pick, as this is finishing up, from our all agents list. Those are all pre-created. Again, some from Microsoft, some that are third-party vendors, but still safe. And then we also have agents that we can create very conveniently with this agent builder operation. Like I said, there's another level of building agents that involves some little bit more technical skill and competence. We won't get into that today. That might be one for the future, and I don't know why this is taking so long, but that's okay. Saxton, I think I'll turn it back over to you. And I'm going to bring up your slide. I assume you want me to do that. Oh, there it is.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, very good.
Awesome. Well, thanks everybody, and thank you, Will, for the great overview. Awesome job there, and thank you all for being with us on a Friday. If you have any questions, my contact information will be listed here. Happy to cover anything that was discussed today. If any questions pop up over the content that Will shared, or if you'd like to explore this topic deeper, we do offer many trainings in an extended version of this specific course as well. So please let me know if you'd like to explore those. We'll have our full catalog for Microsoft courses listed, as well as our Copilot road mapping that I mentioned. We'll also include a link to the recorded session of today's training, as well as any of our upcoming webinars for the continued Copilot webinar series as we continue to do more of these. We also have a feedback form that we'll be sending. If you'd like to fill that out and let us know if there's any way you think we can make these sessions better, we welcome your feedback and are always looking to improve our delivery of these. So that will be linked here as well as the Empowered platform that I mentioned with the free on-demand training that's out there. That'll be linked on this slide. But again, thank you for your time. We'll leave the session open for a couple of minutes. If any questions trickle in, we'll hang out to answer any of those. But keep an eye out for the follow-up email. And again, like I said, if there are any questions that pop up, please do not hesitate to reach out. We appreciate your time. Hope everyone has a great weekend.